What illegal thing do you do on a regular basis? 1. I jailbreak vending machines. Most of them have a hidden menu you can access by pressing a specific sequence of buttons. Once you're in, you can change the prices to 1 cent or even make it dispense snacks for free. I've been doing it for years. 2. When I was a kid I thought it was normal that we could buy movies the day after they came out from the Chinese lady in the chicken shop. I didn't realize it was a crime until middle school when I told someone my grandma had Avatar on DVD and they said that was impossible since the movie was 3 years old still in theaters. 3. Nothing officer. 4. I have never told anyone about this before, but back when I was 15, 1979, I stole a Datsun 240Z car in my neighborhood. I was walking home from a friend's house one hot summer night and as I walked by this cool-ass car and I noticed a single key sticking out of the driver's door lock. I had always thought that car was cool and thought it would have been bitchin' to drive. Well, it was. So Elle kinda looked around and saw no signs of life anywhere so Elle got in and drove it off. It was a super nice car. I drove all around the valley, grew up in Palm Springs. This car was too nice to be treated to a joyride, so after a few hours of driving it, I took it back and parked it right back in its parking spot at about 4 a.m. I figured it was very unlikely that the owner would even know it had drove, other than it missing about a third of tank of gas. But I did keep the key, because they would think that just misplaced it somewhere. And I guess that's exactly what they did because a couple of weeks later I did the same thing, only this time it was almost out of gas so I had to put some in it. Did the second time just like the first time. About a week later I did it again. That time I drove it up to Big Bear Lake because I was dying to drive it on mountain roads. It was a blast. Until, I stopped at a little gasser market to get a snack and bumped into one of my older brother's good friend who knew I was only 15 and didn't have driver's license or a car, much less a vintage sports car. I can't remember the lies I told him but knew I was going to be in deep shit when I got home. I hauled ass back, stopped at 7-Eleven and filled the car with gas and snuck it back into their driveway, took a pen and scribbled out a thank you note and told them that I really love their car and they really shouldn't leave the key in the door overnight. Oh and BTW, I filled the tank for you. 5. I cut my own hair in my house, but I'm not registered as a hairdresser under the 1939 Hairdressers Act. 6. In '94 I had an 87-foot Toyota Celica in black. It was a really nice car when I bought it, but it had a missing hubcap. Not knowing where to get a replacement, I stole a hubcap from another Celica in my neighborhood. I was dumb and 17. I drove that car for 2 years until I got into an accident. Since I no longer needed the hubcap, I put it back on the car I stole it from 2 years earlier. I always wondered what the owner thought about it. 7. Allowing my donkey to sleep in my bathtub in the state of Arizona. 8. When I was in college, parking was $500 per semester which I couldn't afford. I simply went to class each day until I got a parking ticket. I went online, paid the $50 fine but kept the ticket. Every time I would park on campus, I would toss the ticket out onto my windshield so that the parking police thought I was already ticketed. This worked for 2 years, $1,000 worth of parking for $100, and then I came out of class one day to find 2 tickets and note that said nice try. 9. Wow. Tough to say. I'm generally pretty law-abiding. Great question though. I guess if I had to pick one thing though, I'd say murder. 10. Nice try FBI, no way CIA, not today NSA. 11. When I was younger me and my sister were driving down the road when we saw a roadkill raccoon. We decided to pull over to see if it was still alive. It wasn't, but it had a baby raccoon trying to cuddle up to it. We felt bad and took him in. He lived with us for about 14 years until he died. Apparently it's illegal to own a raccoon without a license, but raccoons only live for around 3 years in the wild, so I'll like to think we gave him a pretty good life for an orphan raccoon, regardless of it being illegal. We live in a small town and regularly took him on walks to the park and stuff. He loved people and sat on my shoulder while I was on a 4th of July parade float. RIP Bandit. 12. Pick up bones out of the woods. Apparently it's illegal but I don't care. 13. I drove a car without a title, registration or insurance for about 6 years. Going anywhere was constant anxiety of being pulled over. Glad those days are over. 14. I'd like to know how many people cheat on their taxes just because they're ignorant to what they're supposed to do. Pay.